Hello friends, my name is Ala and welcome to my YouTube channel. Through my artistic journey, perspective has always been a subject that worries a lot of artists. It is not so difficult to do it, but when you're not doing it well, it catches up everyone's eyes and people just tell you that the work is not real or something is wrong with it. But what do you really need to know about perspective? And how does it fit into your artistic work? Perspective can get really difficult if we are looking to a very technical works like industrial design or architectural drawing. It is really impressive indeed, but it takes too much time to do it well and to do it right. For our day-by-day works, when we want to make some really easy and fast works in watercolors or oil painting, we need some basic knowledge to know and to follow. Perspective is that kind of thing that creates a three-dimensional feeling on a two-dimensional surface. In this way, all the objects that we see on the paper look natural and believable. As an artist who respects himself, I decided that I have to make a video on YouTube about linear perspective. It is true that a lot of artists already speak a lot about the linear perspective, but I think that another video is just a must, and it will be a great addition to my YouTube channel and for those of you who are watching this channel. Let's talk about linear perspective. A linear perspective is a system of creating an illusion of depth on a flat surface. Usually when we are drawing, we understand that we are drawing a two-dimensional object, but because of linear perspective, what we have by the end is a three-dimensional object. This means that all parallel lines in painting or drawing, when using this system, and that have a single vanishing point on the composition in a horizontal line, create the depth of the object. We have three main types of linear perspective: one-point perspective, two-point perspective, and three-point perspective. Let's try with one-point perspective. So imagine that this is horizontal line that we have over here, and here we have a vanishing point. And we have a cube over here. All the lines will go to this vanishing point and will create the perspective and the three-dimensional feeling of this cube. Till now it was only a square. And now, when adjusting the depth of this cube, all the lines are parallel over here and over here, and these lines are parallel to this one. We get this kind of cube, and we see the top of this cube. Let's move on with the cube over here. What happens? We will have actually the same cube. The difference that we will get is only how we see this cube. Till now we saw the top part of the cube, this part, but now we will see the back of this cube. We have parallel lines. Okay, this line I just drew it. We see this part in this cube. So as you see, we have only one point, one vanishing point, and usually the vanishing point is where it is our eye view, or as we can see it, horizontal line. Let's see at the same point if we have only one point, only one vanishing point, but we have the perspective of the buildings. For example, we have one building over here, and we have other buildings over there. Same as it happens with cubes, we have all the buildings, all the lines coming up into this vanishing point. Now it is not looking like buildings. This is looking more like cubes, but if we adjust more buildings over here and maybe some bigger if the building is higher, we will have over here the parallel line, but the vanishing point is the same. We can adjust and we can draw some higher building over there. And again, we have vanishing point. You see these lines, how different those are? And if talking about the windows will have the same vanishing point as reference and over here. And at the same time, the windows that are closer will be bigger than the windows that we have far away. One-point perspective is really simple, as it gets and will yield elementary results. However, it is really important that this first step we understand how it works with perspective drawing, because using one-point perspective when we are drawing geometric objects are really helping us to create the depth and three-dimensional feeling of an object. And it is really important that we learn how to draw the objects that are smaller or getting smaller once our vision is getting into one point. And it is true that over here what I want to explain is that don't expect to achieve high realism with only a single vanishing point. Usually we have 2 vanishing points at least. It is very few times that you will see these building parallel and that are vanishing in only one point, or that we see cubes staying at a higher distance or lower distance of our eyes. Let's move on with this 2 points perspective. And as I mentioned, when working with 1 point perspective, the work wants to get really realistic. Now with 2 point perspective, an artist will get a more realistic look to his drawing, because this method is more clearly to understand, and it is more obvious to see in our day-by-day life. Let's move with this horizontal line, and we will have 2 vanishing points, one over here and one over here, and we have a cube. I'm drawing the parallel lines, and I will get from this top to this vanishing point, and from this line into this vanishing point. From this top I will get into this vanishing point, and from this over here. Same I'm doing over here. It is when we see the cube from the top. So our eye view is upper to the cube. And let's see what happens if the cube is somewhere at the top. We have these vanishing points. I will make this cube smaller. We see the same thing that we saw it in previous cases, like with 1 vanishing point. We have to see it more clearly, like one work. What we see is this kind of form of our cube, and we see this top over here. And this is more about seeing a two-point perspective from an angle. What I want to show you now is an interesting way of representing with 2 point of views when we have a curvy street over here. For example, we have a curvy street and we have horizontal line and we have different houses that have one vanishing point. Okay, let's see. Let's building. We have one vanishing point and another vanishing point for this building. And then we have another building that, for example, has totally different vanishing angle because it is constructed over here. Here we have, for example, a street, and here we have another building that has one vanishing point. For example, we have one of the vanishing points over here, and the building lays out like this. And another vanishing point is over here. So we have, in this case, as you can see, totally different vanishing points for each building. And if we have, for example, the windows will stay over here in a line, as we can see at the horizontal line. But the top of the windows will go further because of the perspective. And imagine that this street, for example, on this street we have other buildings that have the same vanishing points as this building. And obviously we will take those as the reference. Another one. So when we have these kind of streets that are totally different that we are used to, then it is obvious that buildings can have different vanishing points. Now let's move on with the third exercise and 3-point perspective. When we use 3-point perspective, when we have a very high building that we have to represent not only in the space, wherever we have the horizontal line, but as well the height. For example, we have over here another vanishing point. It is really important that once you understand 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective is a slight adaptation to the technique. We just add the third vanishing point. Let's imagine that first our building is somewhere over here under an angle. We have 2 perspective points over here. On the 3-dimensional perspective, we remove it. We already don't have parallel lines over here. We just represent how tall is this building. And for example, for the windows, we will have these vanishing points. And here on the top, we build. It looks a little bit unrealistic with 3-dimensional points, but you have to understand it when it works for very high buildings like Empire State Building. any other buildings. Three-dimensional or three vanishing points are used more for really high architectures, wherever we need to position the building not only in the space, visually on the horizontal line, but as well vertically to see how tall is this building. In most of the cases, I'm sure that you will use a two-point perspective. The with vanishing points, we want more to depict the tallness of a building and how in this way we direct the viewer's line of sight up towards the top of the buildings. It is mostly used for really big cities and when you want to tell a visual story when you draw. It really matters that when you create these vanishing points, you know already where to place those and use those for specific work, for specific drawing. Very interesting fact about this: you are never showing up these vanishing points on your end composition. For example, first you make some of small drawings previously to draw, and then you only recreate the side that you really need to represent about your picture, about your composition. For example, if you want to show it, you don't show where your vanishing points are. So imagine that these things that I'm showing you of didn't exist, and you remove these all lines and you have this final building. The same happens here. You don't have to show this final work. If you want to represent only one building, or if you want to only to represent your work in this way, then you just draw this part, and these things you are just removing. You need to represent everything at the beginning, mainly because you have to understand how to draw it correctly, and that the viewer's eyes is not catching up the wrong direction of the perspective points. As explained in each and every of these examples, you see that the horizontal line defines the farthest distance of the background. And on its place, we are creating our vanishing point and establishing where the vanishing point is and draw the work. The horizontal line will always be at eye level, regardless of whether you're at the ground level or standing on a mountain top. It changes whenever you change the position. This is the reason that sometimes we see the objects from the top, sometimes we see from below. And as the final point as well, you saw already that vanishing point is helpful to note more than one vanishing point when we need it. We can use 2-point, 3-point perspective, we can have different angles of 2-point perspective, and to create the building with different 2-point perspectives. I think this basic knowledge about perspective will help you in your way of artistic journey and will help you to create beautiful sketches while on travels. And if any questions, please leave a comment. I will be happy to answer all of your questions.